Hey guys, welcome to the Trophy Life podcast. I'm your host, Tara Smith. From beauty to wellness, wife life, motherhood, and everything feminine in between, the Trophy Life podcast is a place where you can feel inspired and empowered and ultimately create the life that you desire and deserve. It's hot to romanticize your life, so grab a mocktail or your favorite cozy beverage and let's get into it. Hello, and welcome to today's episode. This has by far been one of my most requested topics to chat about. So I'm really excited to dive into today's episode. But before we get into the episode, by the way, I am going to have my computer next to me if you're watching this on YouTube, just in case my phone is like not the vibe while we're reading everything I wrote, because I wanted to be very specific and give you guys as much context as possible as I could with this topic. And so, yeah, I'm really excited. So before we get into that, of course, we have to do the 5 favorites of the week. My 5 favorites this week, I feel like are so good because I actually wrote them down last week while I was like thinking about it. So anyways, the first thing that we have is coconut water and watermelon juice drink. It's from Once Upon a Coconut. I got it at this local grocery store here in Utah. It's called Harmon's. That's where I first tried it. And I got it when I was pregnant and I was obsessed because when you're pregnant, you just need tons of electrolytes. And in general, everyone needs a lot of electrolytes, but especially when you're pregnant, it is so very important. So I got that and then I ordered like a massive case off of Amazon because I was like, I am obsessed with this drink and I really don't think I can live without it. And I was right. And I've been drinking them again and I love them. And they're just like nature's Gatorade, essentially. It's just watermelon juice and coconut water and a drink. And it's heavenly. It's so good. Okay, the second thing is my Skinny Confidential ice roller and face sculpting tool. I kind of like stopped using these for a second. And I think it was because when I got my lips done, you're not supposed to use a face roller on your face, obviously, because it can move your filler around. This tool just snatches me and it wakes my face up in the day. Is there a spider? No. It wakes my face up in the morning. I used it today and I'm on like my period right now. I think I'm on day 3. So I always just get really puffy on my period and right before. And it's such a game changer. And the sculpting tool is amazing because it just does what it says, but it's really great for lymphatic drainage on your face. And I will just like, it like has like 2 balls on the top of it. And then you just like them on your face. That sounds... Anyways. Okay. The third thing is, this is not a thing. This is like a lifestyle that I've been trying to adapt. It's following the 2 out of 3 rule. So when I get ready. So out of doing my hair, my makeup, and getting dressed, I do at least 2 of these. If you work from home or if you're a stay-at-home mom, I think this is like such a game changer because it's so easy to just like stay in your pajamas all day. I feel like COVID really did a number on us. Okay. We got so used to just being at home in sweatpants. And I think it's time that we elevate our lives a little bit more. So I'm just going to call you out here. If this is you, I'm also calling myself out. And I've been doing this and it's been making such a big impact on my life, truly, and my attitude and my confidence. I cannot recommend it enough. My favorite is probably doing a little bit of makeup and getting dressed. Personally, I'm actually in my gym clothes right now because I haven't gone to the gym yet today, but those are my 2 favorites right now. But some days I'm like, I want to spend the time to do my hair so I have a fresh blowout. And when my hair is really done and it looks really good, I'm like, I don't really need any makeup on. Like I feel really cute. So you just do what works for you. The 4th thing, my favorites, is my sniff candles. I just finished my first small candle from them and I'm about to finish my massive, it's like literally this big. It's huge. It's one I got for Christmas. There's leaves in my windowsill. I was like, what is that? Sorry, I'm getting distracted. But yeah, their candles are so great and they're not like, I wouldn't say that they give me like a headache. I don't know how clean they are, but I know that they're cleaner than the average candle, but the scent of them is just chef's kiss. It's the best candles I've ever smelled. What's the one I just finished? Can't remember the name of it, but I know it's on my Shop My, if you're curious. The 5th thing is making Nova's homemade dog food. Nova is the pickiest eater you will literally ever meet in your entire life, more than even humans. Okay. She is so particular. It wasn't until she saw me making her dog food that she was obsessed with her food. I don't know why that is. I think it's because she knows I'm making it. She's like, this was made by my mom with a ton of love. So duh, it tastes the best out of anything else I've ever had. She has eaten 4 different brands of fresh like dog food. She's had Farmer's Dog, Nom Nom, Ollie, and We Feed Raw. Didn't like any of them. And actually she liked Nom Nom for a few years, but then got sick of it and stopped eating. And I was like, you can't just stop eating. And everyone always says like dogs don't purposely starve themselves. And I'm like, you've never met Nova. You've never met her. You don't know her. Okay. You don't know her like I know her. So I started making her own dog food. It's so easy. And it's like 60% less of the cost than buying it from one of these brands. Plus I know that the stuff like the food I'm giving her, like the vegetables are organic. I try to get organic beef, but I'm also trying to keep it in like a very specific budget at the same time. And it's just such a winner. I'm obsessed. And once Luna is out of her food, I'll also do the same for her. She doesn't care. Luna will literally eat anything. She's currently eating We Feed Raw, which is just like raw dog food. And it's great. She loves it. But she also would eat Nova's food. She just doesn't care. So I'm excited. Okay, so let's get into today's episode, the very spicy topic of how I became a full-time influencer, and you can too. Of course you can. And by the way, this topic, I would say, is very, what's the word I want to use? You can use it for anything. So let's say you want to become like a painter. You could use certain things that I say in this episode very much so to relate to what you want to do. Obviously, this is the only thing that I know, because outside of like a few other jobs that I've worked in my life, which I can tell you about in a second, this has been like the main thing that I've always done since I was like in high school. So I'll give you guys some background on other jobs I worked in high school. I worked at a gym in like a kids care. I worked at Swig, which is like a famous soda shop in Utah. I worked there in the summer. It was really hard for me to have a job most of the time in high school because I was doing sports year round. And so that just makes it harder to, also be working when you're working in another way. And then right when I graduated high school, when I was doing modeling at the same time, I was also working at Nordstrom as like a sales associate. And let me just tell you, I slayed that job. I would stay late all the time. Like that was a very common thing for me to do, especially if I had like a client there and I was helping her shop or whatever. Like I love clothes and I love shopping. Like I've always loved that. And so that job was very fun. It was like, it's so physically demanding to be on your feet all day. I'm like, how do nurses and doctors do this? I'm like, you really get your steps in at those jobs. Okay. So yeah. So essentially I want to give you guys my backstory to give context as to like why I'm even able to give advice on this essentially. So I started creating content when I was in high school on Instagram and Twitter just for fun. So I think I made my Twitter account, trying to get my mic to the perfect spot. I think I made my Twitter account when I was like 13, maybe even 12. And I always just had this like pull towards social media. I was like, wait, this is so fun. Like, I love this. And then I downloaded Instagram in 8th grade, which I would have been 13 or 14 at the time. Was obsessed with Instagram as well. I was like, I love this. And I thought it was just so fun to make my Instagram grid look cute. And I loved taking photos. Like I've always loved photography. So it was very fun for me as just like a creative outlet. And I remember in high school, I would say more so middle school, maybe early high school, people thought it was so cringe. And then probably, I think around 2015, 2016, might have even been 2014, I started collaborating with a lot of local Utah photographers that had like a lot of Instagram followers. and they started like posting me on their pages. And I just started getting a ton of followers from that, which was like very common that time on the internet. And I started like just getting, a few hundred at a time. And then in the end of 2016, or like, I think it was September or August, right when I was starting college, I did a shoot with Aeropostale, and a really big photographer had shot me. And he also is the same photographer that got Charlie Jordan really popular. If you guys know who she is, she's like a TikToker. But she started out modeling, and I shot with him and another girl, and Aeropostale like posted me on their page, and I gained like thousands of followers from like probably like 6 different posts that they did, maybe a little bit more like over like the few months or whatever it was. And I was like, this is crazy. But when I was in high school, I had like 5, 6, 7,000 followers, which was like a lot for 2015, 2016. Like that was like not a thing. TikTok wasn't a thing, and it was just Instagram. And I was like, wait, this is so fun. And then I just, again, kept kind of compounding that, and I was just having fun. It was not like I was getting paid maybe like $100 to $500 for shoots. I think like the Aeropostale one, I probably got paid the most. And I'm trying to remember, it was probably between $500 and like $1,000, which at the time that was by far like one of my bigger brands I had worked with modeling wise. And then also one of the biggest photographers that I had ever worked with. Like he had like, I think 500,000 followers on Instagram. I can't remember, but again, that was like only celebrities had that at that time on social media. And I would just collaborate with tons of photographers. And that's kind of how I started to like build my initial following on the internet. In 2018, I started creating my own content, and I was posting on Instagram 2 times a day, like feed posts 2 times a day, tons of stories. And I started to get brand deals at this point. I had like that year, I had a brand deal with Hyundai, Tresemme, FabFitFun was the next year. 9 West, like Saks Fifth Avenue, all of these really big brands. And I was like, this is so crazy. Like, what the heck is going on? And at this point, it was pretty much, I feel like most people would say I was maybe more of a blogger Instagrammer, but I didn't actually have a blog because I did not have any care necessarily to have a blog. But that was like the type of content that I was doing was very like everything I shot was with a camera. There was tons. Oh my gosh. The amount of effort I would put into like one photo shoot was insane. I kind of started to adopt being the model and behind the camera, and Colby would help me with taking photos, and he would also be like creative directing stuff. Like it was so fun. And or I would collaborate with other content creators or influencers or whatever. And then I was still doing modeling gigs in 2018 along with 2019. So 2019 and 2018 were very similar. So 2019 I continued really full throttle on Instagram, and like in March I went to the Philippines for 2 weeks with it's this brand called, why did I just forget their name? Oh my gosh, no, Kingdom and State. What the heck? That was weird. I did not sleep that much last night. So that's why my brain's like a little spacey. And that's where I met my friend Alyssa. She's so funny. I haven't seen her in so long, but her Instagram, her TikTok is like concrete crotch kiss. She's so funny. So I met her on that trip. This girl, Jamie, she's super cute. Allie. And that trip was very fun. My friend Bree was the one who was working with the brand at the time and put everything together. And then a month after that, I went to Italy for 2 weeks with Albion Fit, which was also a very fun experience. I'd never been to Europe. So we went to Tuscany, the Amalfi Coast. Yeah, we were literally shooting swimsuits from sun up to sundown every single day. And it was just such a testament to me that you can be loving what you're doing and it doesn't feel like you're working. And what's actually so crazy, I didn't get paid for either of those trips. And when I think about it now, I'm like, That is so insane because I was working, like the payment was the trip, but now as I like have some perspective, I wouldn't take it back. I don't regret it. But the amount of work that we were doing and like money that you're making for a brand is so insane to me to not get paid, compensated just for your time. But again, if someone wants to go for free, do it. It's totally different than like a traditional brand trip where influencers do it now, because that was a modeling trip. Like I wouldn't ever go on a trip for modeling and not get paid ever again. That's what I will say that. But yeah, I started doing a lot of big brand deals in 2019 as well. And this is when kind of brands, 2018, I guess was when it started, but started to pick up with like brands investing money into influencers. And the influencer was kind of being born at this time. So I was really just like a girl who loved taking photos and documenting my life before you could make money doing it. And I was just thrown into this world because I just genuinely loved it so much. And I think that makes my story like very cool in a sense where for me, I'm like, I love that I started this almost 8 years ago just because I loved it. Like you couldn't make money doing it. And that's something I think is very cool. So in the end of 2019, I joined TikTok and I had a few viral videos on my TikTok that like really catapulted my TikTok before it got big. And like I was on TikTok a very similar time to like Addison Rae, Charli D'Amelio, all of those people, because my husband was like, you should get on TikTok. Like Colby he can predict things like no one I've ever met in my life. The only person I would compare him to is Gary Vaynerchuk, because they both say such similar things and predict the same things all the time. So Colby told me to get on TikTok in 2019. I did. And I think I gained like 50,000 followers I had a few million view videos. And yeah, that kind of started my TikTok journey. In 2020, I was posting like 3-4 times a day on TikTok, regularly on Instagram. And then I started streaming on Twitch, which this is where things get very fun and interesting and different, definitely different than any other influencer that you know or can think of. So in 2021 on my Twitch channel and my gaming TikTok account really just like took off. I have 2 TikTok accounts, by the way. My gaming TikTok account has like 400 something thousand followers, and it went from 0 to 200,000 in like 6 months. It was crazy. I was posting 3 to 4 times a day. I was staying up until like 4 a.m, editing them. And if you've ever watched gaming clips, they are so detail oriented. It's so much more goes into it than like a traditional vlog, if you will. You're editing GIFs into it, sound effects. Think of like Emma Chamberlain's old OG vlogs that she would do, kind of like that, but with a little bit faster paced and like more pop-ups going on. That's like the best way to explain it. And Colby and I had moved to California at the end of 2020 and from Utah. And we were just out there grinding, like having so much fun because we didn't live by anybody that we knew. And I think there's so much to be said about living in a place where you don't live by anybody that you know, and you're not in the place where you grew up. So you have all of these new habits that are being formed and new places that you're going. Like you're so open and just like kind of like giving yourself up to the universe and being like, okay, whatever's meant to be will be. I don't know what's going on, and I'm just open for it. So I was still getting Instagram and TikTok brand deals. Like everything it's just slowly starting to compound. Like I'm starting to be able to charge more and all that kind of stuff. 2022 to 2023, I had continued to grow both of my TikTok accounts. And by the way, I don't recommend having 2 TikTok accounts. Again, I'm like a very unique case in this sense. And the only reason why I did 2 accounts instead of just keeping it on my same one account, which now I would probably say that I wish I would have just maybe kept it on one, but I had a lot of female followers and still do on my lifestyle like main account, and on my gaming one, it's more like 50-50 women, 50, maybe like 40-60, 40% women, 60% men, because most like gaming is mostly a male dominated space, even though my content is very female like heavy and female focused and like it's targeted for women. But that's still will just naturally happen when you're in a space like that. It's similar to like sports. So yeah, I continued to grow both of them. And then in 2022, I got my biggest brand deal I had ever gotten, which was I was offered a contract on the Sephora squad. So I did that throughout 2022, was so much fun. Oh my gosh. And Colby and I had also moved back to Utah in 2022. And it was just like such a fun time, like going through working with Sephora for the first time. And then in January of 2023, I got an email from Sephora that said, we loved working with you so much on the Sephora squad, which by the way, the squad is harder statistically to get into than Harvard. Like they have, I don't know how many applicants they had this year, but it's insane how many people apply. And so this was like such a big deal to be offered back onto the squad as like a guaranteed spot. And then also as a mentor. So essentially mentors on the Sephora squad, there's like 9 or 10 of us. And it is what it sounds like. It's people who they trust, who think they have, you know, good leadership skills, unique in their own space, like all those types of things. And so that was so fun. So I worked with Sephora again throughout 2023 and then also throughout 2024, which was just such a dream to basically work with them for 3 years. And my contract just continued to go up as like I was gaining followers and my content was growing and everything. So it was very, very, very fun. I love the Sephora team so much. I'm obsessed with all of them. I know them all pretty well now. And it's so fun to have brands that you work with who you just vibe with and you jive with. And it's just it's just the best. And then at the end of 2023, I forgot to mention, I also signed with WME. They are the biggest agency in the world. So like Adam Sandler's with them, Selena Gomez, like literally like tons of A-list celebrities. And it's very, very cool to be with WME. And I just feel so grateful. And my agent is amazing. He's so great. So that was also very exciting. And then in July of 2024, my idea for Trophy Life came to be. And my husband and I were literally driving in the car and I was just telling him, I was like, I just really want like to have more girlfriends. I was like, it's so hard to make friends as a adult, especially when like we've been moving around a ton. Like we've always moved every like year, probably maybe year and a half on average throughout our marriage. And I was like, I just want to make more friends. And I was like, I know that from specifically like also from COVID, I was like, I know tons of girls also feel this way. And I was like, and then we just were talking and we literally came up with Trophy Life and we're like, let's make an online community that's for the girls. It's like a private community for the girls. If you know, you know. And I had always wanted to transition from Twitch streaming to podcasting because I was like, you know, doing streaming full time, especially as a mom, it's so much work. Like it's insane how much goes into it. And I was like, I just think it fits me more for the future to do a podcast, which is obviously a risk when you're kind of like pivoting in any way. And we both just felt so good about it. We were like, okay, let's do this. Let's get ready to kind of take the jump. And it just felt so right. Like the way that we even came up with the name Trophy Life, we were trying to think of like, you know, different things, different words that we liked. And it was just crazy how naturally it came to us. And that's what I thought was so cool. And all the handles were available on social media. And I was like, Trophy Life is the perfect name for the podcast. Like everything just fit so well. And I feel like when something like that happens, it's just, you know, it's kind of just meant to be. Colby and I we love to go on drives together. We do it all the time, especially in the summer, not as much in the winter because it's like snowing or it's raining and it's just like not fun to drive in. But we will go on like 4-hour drives on Sundays in the summer. And when we go on road trips, when we've driven back from California and Utah, I don't even know how many times, but we never like listen. If we sometimes like maybe 2 times we've listened to a book because we just talk the entire time. We talk about career stuff, family stuff, like our goals. And it's my favorite thing in the entire world. So now our drives are like our infamous drives that we have where, we just are talking a ton. And usually we're talking about my career specifically. And because Colby just does not need, honestly, he doesn't need help with anything in his work. And if he ever does want an opinion, then he'll obviously ask me, but he's very much so equally the brains to my career and very much so as equally to congratulate than just me. I'm just more so the face of it, but he is very much so the brains. He's the one who told me to get on TikTok, and he's the one who was like, maybe you should start streaming on Twitch. You'd be so good at that. And it's something different, which I would have gotten my Sephora Squad contract had I not been a streamer. So very cool to have a partner who is almost more excited for me and my career than I am about for myself, which is so freaking cool to have someone like that in your corner. And, I just think it's very important. So, and by the way, it doesn't have to be your partner, that person for you. I think everyone needs someone like that in their life, even if it's a friend, your mom, your sister, just someone. So present day, I have built an incredible base over the past 8 years, and I'm very proud of it. And I have worked with so many incredible brands, built up incredible relationships with those brands, Sephora being one of them. And, I'm so grateful for the future for me specifically. I always have something cooking. I always have something in my brain that I'm thinking about. And I definitely feel like a career or anything you're working towards, it's a steady build to keep just growing and improving. And there's not really an end game for me necessarily. There is in some things that I have in the works or planned or whatever. But for the most part, I am just along for the journey. And I think that's such a fun way to kind of just live your life. So I am very specific for my vision for the future. I've always been that way. I'll use my gaming account as a example. I knew, I never had a doubt in my mind that what I was creating would be that it would go viral, if that makes sense. And I think that that's the key is having so much confidence in yourself and it being so genuine that you're nothing can stop me. I am un-F-withable. That's my favorite thing to say. No one can touch me. It is how it is. But again, my husband is such a big part of this, and I feel like he never gets his flowers. Is that what you would say? Is that the right saying? I don't know if that's what that means, but he's also the COO of his own tech company. So he's very busy, but he is also the literal ship director. He's the captain of his company as well. And so it's very cool. He just really has a gift with stuff like that. He's very successful on his own. And I love that as well with us, is that we each have our own things that we're doing and we're successful with. I wouldn't say I'm definitely not the traditional influencer whose husband works with them full time. That's just not something that I would do. I would work with my husband full time if it were a separate business, but not my own personal brand, if that makes sense. But yeah, I'm obsessed with my husband. He's the hardest working person that I know. And honestly, I don't talk about him that much on the internet because he is so special to me. And our relationship is the most sacred thing to me. And I also when you have so much confidence in something, especially a marriage or a relationship, I don't feel like I have to plaster it on the internet, to be honest with you. I just got a DM that was are you and Colby still together? And I'm like, yes. I'm he's he's on my feed a decent amount, I feel like. But even when I have kids, I'm sure that's just not going to change. I'll always be the center of my content, not my husband, not friends, not family, not kids. So now I want to talk about my tips for you guys. And I'm not going to say how much money I've made in my career, over these 8 years, but all I will say is that it's well over 7 figures. So I do think that I definitely have maybe even 8, but same thing. It doesn't matter. So I'm definitely very qualified to talk about this, and everything that I've done, I have, essentially built it myself and figured out different ways, gotten scrappy, all that kind of stuff to grow my brand. So it's so exciting. And yeah, I'm excited to share tips for you. And by the way, all these tips apply to any career. And obviously they are like a little bit more catered to being an influencer specifically because that's all that I know. It's basically all I've done as an adult. And I guess you could also say like creating your own brand. But if you, again, like want to be a painter or have your own interior design business, I think that all of these just kind of you can relate that to it in any way. Or even being a stay-at-home mom, I think is also so exciting. And one thing I think it would be so fun, like I don't know how, my life will change when I am a mom, but it'd be so fun as a mom to be like just constantly finding ways to like improve yourself and help your kids in tons of different ways. Like I would get so excited about that personally as a mom because I just love experiencing growth in whatever capacity I currently get it in. So my tips for you would first off be to add value and differentiate yourself. Like taking inspo is fine, but being you is your superpower. Like nobody else is you. And I think knowing what you're good at is very key as well, being self-aware. And if you don't know what you're good at, just try a bunch of stuff. I'm like the epitome of someone who has tried a ton of things, and I love where it has led me so far. Like I think it's like the coolest story, and it's just, it's very cool. So don't be afraid to put yourself out there. People, when I was in high school, definitely thought people used to leave me comments or like I got some crazy things said to me, and girls especially were just mean. But now those same girls ask me how I do what I do. So it is what it is. But yeah, I think and again, when people are like rude, it has nothing to do with you. It has everything to do with them. It's just an insecurity of theirs. So, and honestly, I just feel bad for people that are like that. And I think that that's a really good way to go about life, because if not, then it can just eat you alive a little bit. The next thing I'd say is don't do it for the money. Yes, it's totally okay to be motivated by money, especially if you want financial independence. The only thing that I would say is that it takes years. So don't quit your job. Don't do any of that. I don't know why people, if they recommend that, I'm like, no, don't do that. Unless you like have literally zero living expenses, then, obviously figure out what works for you. I was living with my parents, obviously, because I was in high school when I started doing content creation. But yeah, I think that if you're motivated specifically just by money, you will find the quickest way to get that money. And it might not be the most sustainable for you as a brand and as an influencer over time. So a good example of this could be doing like, maybe like too clickbaity of content where it just turns people off. Just again, finding what works for you, trying out things, and finding a deeper purpose than just money. Like for me with Trophy Life, I am so obsessed with community and women feeling like they have other women that they can, like just a big community that they can be a part of and friends that they can make. And I am so obsessed with that when it comes to Trophy Life. Like it gives me so much life. And same with the podcast. Like I just want to share my thoughts and connect with people. And that's why, again, I've always loved social media, was for that reason. And it was never for the money. I just happened to start doing something that I love. And then I made a career out of it, honestly, on accident, kind of on accident, also intentional, because I knew that I was like, there has to be, like, there's something here with this. Even though at the time I was like 17 years old and I didn't know super what that was, I knew that there was something. But like something felt special about it. And you'll kind of get that feeling a little bit, I think, especially as you put yourself out there. So yeah, I think it's just great to have a higher energy or like a higher purpose that you're shooting for, because it will hopefully, if it's something that you love, hopefully it makes you happy. Think about what type of content you like to consume and then put your own spin on it. So let's say you love watching YouTube vlogs. I think that it's such a great idea to start creating YouTube vlogs, because most likely you will also enjoy making content like that. Maybe not. And that's totally okay. Like maybe you love listening to podcasts, but you're like, I do not want to go on a mic. I don't want to do that. That's okay. Maybe you would like writing a blog. Like again, just trying different things out is so key. Like maybe a Substack would be great for you, or growing on Pinterest. Like there's so many different opportunities that people, I feel like, don't even talk about, because it's only like TikTok and Instagram, I feel like most people talk about, when there's just so much more. Like there's tons of huge creators on X and Substack and Pinterest. And I'm like, there's just so many different avenues for what you can do that will fulfill you. The other thing I would say is do not overconsume content. It can kind of cloud your judgment and your artistic form if you're too focused on other people's content instead of being like very honed in on your own. I know that can be like very hard to do, but again, if you need tips on this, watch or listen to my recent episode I did on like phone addiction and how to break up with your phone, because I think that has a lot of really great tangible tips that will help you, again, in any career, but specifically in content creation, because you're literally working on your phone on social media. So yeah, I think it's great for that. Okay, the next thing I would say is to be patient. Like you have to keep in mind that it took me literally over 8 years to get to where I'm at today, and slow and steady growth is amazing. Like it's the way. I feel like a lot of people that I know who shot up really quickly also just like fall really quickly and they're irrelevant. So I think that the best thing to do is the slow and steady growth, and you'll have spurts where it's like goes up, and then you'll have some times where it goes back down, but it's just kind of always continuing to go up. I love thinking about a career or a brand like the stock market, where it's just going up and down all the time. And some years you might even have a little bit of a dip, and that's totally okay. I think in general, the internet and social media, of course, there's like highlight reels. Everyone always talks about that, but I don't even think it's necessarily that. I think it's more so in this case scenario, when it comes to success and comparing yourself to other people's success, I think it's just important to know that every single person who is successful experiences the up and down, and that it's completely normal. And even people that are extremely consistent in what they're doing, they still experience that. So like I have not ever missed a week on the podcast, for example, with, I think I did a few times when I was pregnant, but that doesn't count because of how sick I was. And the next time I'm pregnant, before I get pregnant, I will be batching a ton of episodes. So I'm learning. But my point is that my podcast has been growing every single week, gets more and more downloads. And, I have I'm in this for the long run. I can't wait to see where the podcast is in 5 years from now. Like I really am like so excited. I'm like that gets me so giddy to know what's over the next 5 years. I'm like, I wish I could have a peek at the future to see, because from 2020 to 2025 was just full of so many fun experiences and events and opportunities. And I just can't wait to see what comes in the next 5 years. The last thing I would say, which this is definitely the most important thing. Okay. Are you ready? It's 2 words. Have fun. I think a lot of people, I know it sounds so cheesy, but seriously, so many people forget when they're doing like content creation or they're working to like enjoy what you're doing. Like have fun. I think people also forget that when you're not doing this and people can feel the inauthentic vibes from you on the other side of the camera, it just won't translate. Like people will be able to see through the BS. And again, I think the key is enjoying and loving what you're doing. And some days you'll have hard days, and that's totally okay. No worries about it. So yeah, I feel like that's pretty much everything for this episode. If you have any more questions, feel free to leave them in the Ask Tara box in the description down below. It's just like our little questionnaire. It's also on the Trophy Life Club Instagram highlight as well. And by the way, Instagram wise, I'm just going to keep one Instagram account. So it's just going to be at Trophy Life Club. That's where all podcast clips will go and everything like that, just to keep it really simple for myself, because it was a little bit too much to be posting on 1, 2, 3, 4. I think I had like 5 different accounts. And I was like, this is like too much. I can't grow everything to the capacity that I know it can reach if I'm spreading myself too thin. So yeah, I'm excited. So it's just at Trophy Life Club on TikTok and Instagram. And I'm so excited for you guys to tell me your thoughts on this episode. And I will see you in the next one. Bye. Thank you so much for tuning into today's episode. I hope you enjoyed it just as much as I did. Before you go, I have something exciting for you. I'm doing a giveaway. So to enter, all you need to do is rate and review the show either on Apple or Spotify. Make sure that you're subscribed to the show, of course, so you never miss an episode. And head over to the @Trophy Life Podcast Instagram and leave a comment on my latest post and let me know what your favorite takeaway was from today's episode, or comment some emojis, just something, and that will basically enter you into the giveaway. The more that you engage, the higher your chances of winning are, so don't be shy. I'll see you. I'll be engaging with you. And this is something I'm going to be doing ongoing. So even if you're listening to this episode later, you can still go and comment on my most recent post and it will 100% get you entered into the giveaway. And if you haven't already, make sure to follow the podcast, of course, on Instagram at Trophy Life Podcast. And if you haven't already, come join the club at Trophy Life Club. This is just a community for the girls who like to romanticize their life and want to become the best version of themselves. And of course, you can follow me on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube at Tara Kelly Smith for more content. Thank you for being here, and I will see you in the next episode. Love you. Bye.